What up, homeboys? There is so many changes coming to TBC, I am having a hard time keeping up, so this is another installment on that. I am not an arena player, but this will affect PvEers, and that's why I'm making this video. Basically, just like in vanilla, TBC has a best-in-slot weapon for gladiators that is unbelievably good, better than raid loot, and is best-in-slot, pretty much. Before, to get gladiator weapons, you needed to get a rating of, if I am not mistaken, 1850. This is the gladiator's gavel, the best-in-slot Shockadin and Prot Paladin weapon in the game. Resilience is actually helpful in PvE. In TBC, you can actually use it to reduce the chance you get crit. It is like defense, more or less. Not the same, but kinda close, right? So resilience is pretty useful for a tank, and that's why Prot Paladins, even without the resilience, it would be best in slot because the spell power is bonkers and the stamina is pretty good. But yes, this is just one example. If you look at the gladiator weapon for warriors, it is 91 DPS. And it has a good amount of crit and attack power and hit. I don't think it is best in slot, but it is pretty up there, you know? So they changed the way you get your arena weapons. First of all, they got rid of the concept of teams. You can just play with anybody now. Personally, I think as a casual player, I think that's a great change. It is gonna make it a lot more accessible for everybody to PvP now. And especially the people that only want the gladiator weapons, which is what I think they want. I think Blizzard is consciously trying to get a bunch of noobs like me to go to PvP so the queues are not long. I think they want a lot of cannon fodder for their rating system. So the rating of everybody is gonna start at 1500. You can reset it to 1500 every week. So if you lose 10 games, you can get it back up. So there is really no cost of entry anymore of like, oh, you gotta be in a team, and if you lose a team, you gotta wait a day. That bullshit that nobody didn't make any sense. It's over. It's just like modern PvP now. And here, they lowered the requirement to weapons to 1700. There is also no longer a requirement for other PvP pieces. There are some PvP pieces out there that are really good, of course, but if I go talking about every armor piece, I'm gonna be here forever, so we're gonna be talking about the weapons, which are only 1700. Now, 1700 is not a free rating. You gotta win, what is it, probably 10-20 games in a row, in theory, to get 1700. So like, you're gonna be grinding arenas for a while, but it is achievable. It is a rating that like the majority of people with reasonable effort and a decent composition are gonna be able to get now. And that's huge. Of course, Dragon Maw is gonna be best in slot. Dragon Maw is broken. But if you are not a Fury Warrior, hell, if you are, say, a Hunter, or if you are a Rogue, or if you are a Paladin, or a 200 class, whatever, the Gladiator weapons are most likely the best option for you. And hell, if you are actually a Gladiator and you got good PvP gear, just getting a full PvP set will make you a pretty decent tank. Now, will this change the meta? In the grand scheme of things, I would say no. What classes are weapons a big deal for? Don't get me wrong, this is a lot of stats, it is an amazing item, but if a Prot Paladin has a crappy weapon and otherwise decent gear, it will not make any big difference, right? Your weapon is not a big decider of your damage or threat or whatever, or also for casters, which are gonna get the Gladiator staff, that's gonna be huge. But it is not make or break. It is not like in vanilla where you are wielding a goddamn blue axe until you get rank 14, right? It is not that difference anymore. Also, warriors get this super broken mace from blacksmithing. So blacksmithing will still be mandatory. It is the same DPS as the gladiator weapon, by the way. But the proc is broken. Dragon Maw is better than the gladiator weapon for PvE, sorry. But the thing is that you do not go double Dragon Maw anymore. You can only proc it once. It has an internal cooldown. It is not like in private servers where the internal cooldown from one mace on your main hand was different than your offhander anymore. Doesn't work like that. So you, once again, need an offhand. And once again, you can get a really nice slow offhand for your warrior. Yes, warriors in TBC prefer a slower offhand. It is not a big deal like it was in vanilla, but yes, they prefer a slower one. So whatever way you wanna look at it, the Gladiator Axe will be best in slot for your offhand. The next best thing you can get is the Spite Blade, the Spite Blade from Nether Spite obviously. 9% drop chance, very rare item, very coveted item. You're gonna fight a lot of people to get it. And it is 87 DPS, 46 attack power, 14 agility, which is I believe 33% of a crit, 0.33 I mean. So this is more crit, it has hit on it. It has a little less attack power, I guess, and more DPS. Also, the Gladiator Cleaver comes in sword form if you're a human, so you still want it. That's also the thing, right? Like, if you are an orc, Spite Blade is not an axe. So, yeah, that too, I guess. So, even if you have access to the best weapon in the game, which is from blacksmithing, you still, in theory, have to get Gladiator to be best in slot. Will it make a huge difference to have a Gladiator Cleaver against the Spite Blade? Not really, but it is a difference. And if you do not want to level blacksmithing, don't play a warrior. But yeah, you have to be a Gladiator, I guess. There is no news, I believe, maybe there is on the PTR, but they said the cost of the PvP gear in general has been lowered. So you will also be able to get your weapon faster. I am not sure what the cost is gonna be. I expect it's gonna be something like 1600 points or something like that, which is like a couple of weeks unless you're like super high rank, and the higher rank you are, the more points you get, right? But that is to say, if you wanna try hard in TBC or if you wanna play casually and you don't wanna go through a lot of grind to get your pre-raid best in slot, or like if you cannot raid that much and you wanna come later, whatever the case may be, PvPing is now a very, very enticing, very good effort to reward ratio for getting your gear in PvE. And me, against my better judgment, will probably have to play a Shokadin to get this maze. I really want this goddamn maze. Do you think it is a good change? I was very critical of the PvP changes in Anniversary, and I still am. I think it killed progression for gear. TBC is different, because aside from the weapon, the PvP gear is not really best in slot anymore, and also raid gear is a lot more available, and like items make a lot more sense. It is no longer mandatory to be a gladiator to PvP to get good gear, to do decently in a raid, the way that rank 14 was mandatory in Anniversary to do decently in a raid, because you were having blue weapons all the way to rank 14. So I think it's a positive change, and it will give people a lot to do. I think there's gonna be a lot more ults because of this, because a lot more people are gonna PvP for fun and get a character raid ready almost by accident with this rank. This is from the perspective of a non-PvPer, and I can totally see why a PvPer would be mad at this, that they would not like people to have gladiator gear for free. I can understand that. But to me, I think it's a great change, and rare Blizzard W. And subscribe, join the Discord, and thank you for watching.